So this workshop, I just want to tell you about everything I've learned in the past 3 months of trying to build this thing, Numantic. So a few weeks ago, I was just staying, I was like showering or something, and it just kept through my mind, going through my mind that I spent so much time learning about the problem, talking to the people in this space, and just doing research on this and building this. Like, it's so painful to just stop. Like, what do I have to show for it? Like, it just felt so painful. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if I reflect on it very thoroughly and kind of outline all the lessons, that maybe it's not wasted. Maybe, I learned something from it and I can move on. Yeah, so I decided to move on from that project, which was called Numantic. So the problem that Numantic was, is it was a system. So, okay, I'll motivate it a bit. So my mind gets busy. Like, it just, lots of thoughts go in and everything seems important. And things like emails come in, and after meeting some things, some action was come out, and there's just a lot to focus on, a lot to react to, and the mind just wants to do everything. But of course, maybe every successful person talks about prioritization, and maybe you can't just do everything, and you need to prioritize. So I thought, okay, but the problem with me is that, so my solution to this was that I just had a piece of paper and I would just brain dump everything that comes into my life and into my brain, and I would just put it on paper, and then I would just ignore that paper until the weekend. And then I'll process it. I'll figure out what is important, what's worth focusing on, what is junk, blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of like the motivation for this system that I was building. So the problem was that system that I had is that I would just not go back and actually maintain that system and organize things. So it sounds good in theory, but it didn't work. By the way, feel free to interrupt me and ask me questions. It's a messy session where we just chat anyhow. So does it make sense what I was building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. I was wondering why it didn't work.
Yeah, cool. Naturally leads us.
I'm sure you'll get there.
Okay. Okay, we'll come to why it didn't work. But maybe before that, since it's a messy session and it's not going to be a neat story, I'm just going to talk about the importance of talking to people. So when I started on this problem, I knew it's important to validate the idea and make sure that to get it with customers, and it's no point building something no one will ever use or care about. So I knew that. But it was hard. Talking to people was hard when they weren't in my network, and when I didn't even know how to find them. So I think the lesson from this for me was that it's so essential to just build up karma, and just help people and just give to people without expecting anything back for a long time, and then karma will build. And Elon Musk talks about it, karma. It's not like you can think of it spiritually, but I think about it just like if you help a lot of people, then someone can help you when you need help.
What was hard about talking to people when you were doing that? Like, was it finding the people? Was it convincing them to give them your time? Was it the actual conversation for all of us?
I think the problem is no one really. I think maybe I didn't have people in my network who I could talk to about this. So the product was for ADHD.
Right.
I didn't really know people who I could talk to, and and it almost felt like it was hard to get, even if I knew somebody somewhat. No one I would message them, but no one would respond. No one would really care. And this leads me to actually after I started building, I started doing something interesting. I started doing this thing where I would become a personal assistant for people with ADHD, just so I can do things that not scale and kind of get feedback and understand how what things actually work to help those people. But the problem is, um, even then, when it was like a no-brainer deal, when I'm like, hey, I'll be your personal assistant 24/7, whatever you need, I'll be there for free for you for the next few months to help you, and not only to help you temporarily, but also build up systems in your life so you can help yourself later. And yeah, people don't really care. They were like, they just, it was hard to get people to do that no-brainer thing, which is like so non-obvious. Like you think, oh, like what, I'm gonna give this person something valuable for free and they'll for sure like it. But that wasn't the case, interestingly.
A lot of my work revolves around that essential problem of helping entrepreneurs realize that their perception of the value they're providing does not match their customers' perception of the value they're providing. So you come up with this no-brainer offer. I'm going to be your personal assistant for free, which in your mind is probably what you would have wanted, right? You perceive that as highly valuable. And yet when you tried to do it, you found that people didn't perceive the same value. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that feels right. And on top of that, I would add also, not only they might not have perceived the value, but also there might have been like some social elements, like maybe the person doesn't want to be seen as somebody who needs help, and so I suppose like there are like lots of social elements that interplayed with this dynamic, which made it even harder. So like, yeah, it's a nice advice, talk to people. Yes, I agree, we should talk to people and understand whether anyone wants what we do, but like there are so many nuances. And also when talking to people, I also found that at first my market was too big, and I didn't segment it. Like my user profile was kind of like too broad. And that caused me to talk to so many people about their problems, and they all had different problems, and I just got confused because there's so much. So at that point, I got some help from a mentor, and they helped me kind of reduce my segment. I think that helped a lot, but it took a little bit of time to get there. And also, just being able to ask the right questions, and it's like sounds so simple and and it's like I think this workshop is like all these things are obvious, but it's like there are nuances with all these things. And it's like when I was talking to customers, at first everyone was like talking to me like they don't have any problems, like they're good, they like winning everything, like.
Who are these people? You talk so much.
That's because they're defensive, right?
Yeah, I suppose, but also maybe my questions were like, they were kind of questions, they were almost asking, instead of looking for like grounded answers, like grounded facts about their life, about which I would make an inference, I was asking about like, what's your biggest productivity struggle? And some guy would tell me about like something that happened at his work 2 days ago, which is not related to ADHD. Anyway, just, yeah, there's like I think Mom Test is good. I reread Mom Test like 4 times. But yeah, every time I learn something new that's like obvious but not obvious. Yeah. Okay, so then let's go into, so this is like the talking to customers now. But then there is the stuff about actually building. I am an engineer, and for me building is complicated. That's just, I enjoy it. It's fun, building, optimizing, abstracting, making things elegant. It's satisfying, but I found that like I was building a piece of shit, and I was making a very beautiful piece of shit. Like a very elegant, very object-oriented, and very like, almost like when I was in the engineer mode, it was like so tempting to just keep being an engineer and keep like building and making very nice systems which are super maintainable and which I can like on which I can experiment and blah blah blah. It's like, so the problem was, one lesson for me is that what I think I needed is to plan out and scope out very thoroughly before I start building. So this kind of comes to a lesson of me knowing myself. It's like, I am not good at just building things, getting into building and then stopping and then doing something else. Like me personally, knowing myself is like, if I build, then I'm in that mode, I'm in that builder mode, and I don't exit it until things are built. So what I learned about myself is that I should scope out and plan out very thoroughly and guardrail the process of like what I'm building and what I'm not building, so that it's just this thing, scoped out, finite thing, um, which limits me and sort of guardrails me against just going on those tangents of like choosing the optimal font color when even like when what I'm building, yeah, no one even cares about it.
So when you first started building, it sounds like you were building something to solve a problem for yourself.
Almost.
But then you went into speaking to a lot of people, and the project got bigger,
Yeah.
and it kind of got convoluted. What about the tool that you built for yourself? Was that any good? Like, did it work for you? Did it help you accomplish your tasks and your productivity or anything like that? And if it did for you, is there not anyone else that would have related to the way your mind works? Because like, as people say, everyone's minds work differently. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah. I think, okay, when I joined Outlier this week, somebody told me, one of the partners, he told me that sometimes like this kind of strategy of building things for yourself and then hopefully they generalize, hopefully you're not so unique that no one can relate to it. So I think that is like one way of doing startup, is just build something for yourself and hopefully generalizes, and maybe it will. But the problem with doing it this way is that if you build something for yourself, then you might just be kind of like an engineer mod. You might just be like having fun with it, or you might just be like me, just kind of, I was desperate to look for a problem. I wanted to be a founder, and I was looking for a problem, and I was desperate for a problem, and I kind of just like, it biased me into thinking things that maybe don't matter so much, matter a lot. So there is this element, is that you might build something for yourself that might work, but it might actually be a vitamin. It might be that you don't even benefit too much out of it,
Right.
and you just use it because it's like you built it and you're like invested into it and so on. And another, I think, element of this is, yeah, it might be one of those problems that like it's only really for you. It's only really like so niche because maybe you build such a super niche thing that it's only really for you. Yeah, so I would say those two things.
Yeah, right. So did when you built it, did it actually help you though?
When I built it, did it help me? Okay, so
Because it sounds like you've got that brain because you were talking about how you didn't come back to reflect on things. Did it solve that problem for you?
yeah, and that's the thing, that when I was coming back at the end to kind of like, when I was making the decision on whether to stop this startup or continue with this problem space, that's what I came back to, is like, hey, I had this initial problem, like, is it still a problem? Is there a real problem? What's going on there? Like, am I just quitting, or is there, like, or is this not a problem? Like, did I learn anything? Like, am I quitting with confidence, or am I stopping, like, because, like, it's been no momentum and it's been hard? And so I think what I came to is that it didn't really, yeah, I came to an understanding that I wasn't even fully sure what my problem was. I was like sort of sure, sort of had like a data set on which I was training the system, on which to which I was building the system. But at the end of the day, like after I got rid of all the junk in like the trains, okay, that's a lesson, is that the train set which I was optimizing for, the sort of the technical problem I was solving was actually not representative of the problem that I faced. Yeah.
So if I understand what you're saying, to get to Sam's question, you don't know if the tool, because the problem was actually not as clearly defined as you thought it was when you started the project. So you can't really say if the software solved it definitely yes or no, because the problem itself was the problem. Is that right?
I think okay, I think there is still a problem. Okay, well, let's put it this way. I think there's still a problem. I think the problem is not as big as I thought it was.
Not as big.
I made it up in my head because I wanted to be a founder. But yeah, but also I think like the problem that I actually ended up solving was not representative of the actual issue that I had, and I think I learned about it.
So it's two phases. It's like the problem wasn't as big as you initially thought, and secondly, the problem that you ended up solving was not the initial problem as well.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I ended up actually, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's actually quite interesting because when I was building it, I was building like one of the ways. Okay, but since I struggled with customer feedback and talking to customers and getting the right people to talk to me, I started taking a slightly different approach. Because also the feedback was lukewarm. People seemed like they weren't really interested in it. Like it wasn't really like they didn't really care. Okay, that's the thing. People seemed, when I did talk to them, they didn't seem like they really cared. But I felt like this is a problem in my life. So maybe I'm just not communicating to them correctly, or maybe I'm not like showing them the. Maybe if they see it, maybe it's one of those Steve Jobs things. It's like maybe if they see it, they'll like be like they'll have like the aha moment. So that's what I thought. And when I ended up building this, one of the customers that looked at it, one of the guys I talked to, he looked at it and he was just confused. He was just like he didn't he was like nodding and like really like acting like that he could relate. But like after I asked him like a clarifying question, like what would it solve in your life? He was like he didn't know. He said something completely different from what it's meant to solve. Like yeah, so it's like yeah, so that was a very interesting moment. Is that the customer? So one lesson here is that my belief is that why I was getting lukewarm feedback, and I thought it's one of those Steve Jobs things. You show it to people, and you will know whether it's valuable or not. I think that might have been the wrong approach because I still should have understood whether they had the problem, the customers initially. But I think lots of people, they have strategies to cope with this. So in a sense, they didn't really have much of this problem. And second lesson is that what I was optimizing the system to do was the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Was not the thing that was solving the problem. And not only because I had the wrong train set, I created the wrong demo. And when I'm showing it to customers, they go confused. So it's so important that the demo is like actually a representative of what the product is meant to be, and not just what's convenient and what's like easy to set up. It's like obvious stuff, but it's like so not obvious when I'm like in this tech engineering mode, and you just want to like create object-oriented. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, but isn't this a real problem? Like, can you say that you don't have ADHD anymore? Like, wasn't that the original problem that you're trying to solve?
So I think ADHD is like super general and super broad, and there's so many like things that it comes with. And so I understood that the real problem I was tackling. So it took me 3 prototypes to come down to understand like what is actually the crux of the problem that I was tackling. You know, at first I was kind of like, I'm solving this technical problem, but what is the actual customer problem? And it took me 3 prototypes to understand what is the customer problem. And the problem that I was solving is to help people distinguish between signal and the noise in their life. Is to be like that paper sheet that I had, on which I would just write things down and I would process it on a weekend. It's just meant to be that. And the problem is that since I wasn't processing that piece of paper, my hope was that AI could process it for us. So we could just write things down, everything that comes at us or in our life, put it away, AI will process it and will give us like what is valuable, meaningful to focus on and what is not.
That sounds valuable to me.
Yeah, okay, so now we can go into why it didn't work out. So one of the lessons I think is that there was too much friction. I think to do it well, to understand for AI, to understand what you need, what is meaningful, what is signal, what is noise in your life, it needs more context than AI is trained on. So yes, so one thing is like it's difficulty in eliciting the context from the people. It creates too much friction, and I'm not sure it justifies the value of the product. Second, this is super consumer stuff, and very skeptical anyone would ever want to pay for it. I thought people would, but then I looked at my own behavior, how I was like not even wanting to pay for like ChatGPT when I was having Gemini or something like that, and it's like so much more valuable than what I'm offering. And it's like, okay, so maybe people aren't actually going to pay for this. So that was the second thing. What are some other things? So the friction, the users are not willing to pay for it. Yeah, ADHD problem is that people struggle with doing what they know as opposed to knowing what to do. So that is another insight that I got.
Struggling with what? Doing what they.
Yeah, exactly. So they know they should sleep on time, or they know they should like do the work, but they just avoid kind of the work. So it's like they already know what's like they should be doing. It's just they don't do it. So like telling them what they should be doing is maybe not as useful. It's kind of like prioritization problem.
Yeah, that of all the things you said feels like the most cutting to the core of your original. You talked about how you originally imagined there was this problem, and you believed in it, and you built a thing, and you went to market or research, and then you found a variety of different findings, would it pay for it, and a bunch of stuff. It's all important, but the thing you just said feels like at the core of your original hypothesis, that they already know what your app was trying to deliver. The value that your app was promising was something they didn't value because they already knew what they should do. The unmet need that they have, that they perceive, is how do I make myself do this? How do I get myself to get to bed on time? Like I've tried stuff, nothing's working. That's and I'm not saying you should like work on it more or anything. I'm just saying when I listen to you talk about this whole journey, some of the things are like things every founder faces. Will they pay for it and why and who? Some of it is unique to your particular thing, and that one feels like the most actionable, iterative thing. Like what often happens with any project, whether it's art or software, is you start with a imagined place, and then just like any Bayesian system, you have your priors, and then you update them, right? And you just update it with, here's the actual pain they have. The actual pain is how can I get myself to get to bed, right? As an ADHD person who can't stop scrolling or whatever their thing is, how, right? I don't have a solution for that, right? You may not have one, but you do have the problem now.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's what it came to. So it's like one of the values is that ultimately you kind of understand the problem space, and you understand what the real problems are, and you understand like why your hypothesis was wrong. But also on this point actually is that the interesting thing is that people already so the problem coming down to like, remember I said that I wasn't sure what the problem, it ended up at the end that I wasn't really sure what problem I was solving. And the reason for that is that during research, the more I thought about it, the more I talked to people, I realized, hey, people already know that they have a full-time job they should be doing. People have like family commitments they should be doing. So it's like most of the things, they don't need to know whether it's a signal or noise. They already know they should do it, and it's most of the things we do. It's like going to job or going to university or writing a book, like it's stuff you already know. So what my system, I ended up understanding that the real value of the system is to handle everything else. It's like your taxes are asked to be processed. It's like some actionable came out of the meeting, somebody you should chat to. It's like all the other stuff, and you try to figure out whether it's a signal or the noise. So see, it's like in this journey, it's like the more I got feedback, the more I learned, the more I recognized that the problem I was solving was like, it didn't make sense what I was solving, in a sense.
So I didn't quite understand that. So are you saying that when you talk to users and you thought about all the things they should be doing, such as I should be getting my taxes done, I should be, and what, continue that sentence because I don't quite follow.
Yeah, it's like all the things that brain generates. Sometimes brain generates like you should do this, you should do this, and then sometimes like the things you see on email, it's not in your plan for the day or for the week or for the months, but it's like some new actionable sort of ideas or thoughts or new projects you want to do or some reflections, and all these sort of all of this is like, what do we do with it? Like some people just do everything. Some people just say, okay, I'll do that later. Some people just ignore all the, like delete most of the emails and don't even look at them. So different people have different strategies. My strategy for coping with those things was just doing them all in a row.
As they came in.
As they came in.
You suddenly jump to taxes, and then you
Yes.
switch back to your mom's birthday or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, so I realized that the system I wanted was to help me handle, prioritize, figure out whether it's signal or the noise for everything else that is not my primary sort of activities. It's like all the things from
It's a little abstract for me. Can you break it down? So let's say that you get an email that reminds you taxes are due, and you start working on it. In the middle of that work, you then get an email that's about your mom's birthday you're supposed to be organizing. How would this system work different from that? I assume what happened then is you would stop working, part with your taxes, and start working on your mom's birthday. Neither thing would get done properly.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's the problem?
Well, no. So the problem was that when I was that's actually my understanding of the problem deepened. Is that everyone should do taxes. Like at this point or later, you need to do taxes. So it's not like something you can discard and the system helps you figure out signal or noise. It's something you're gonna do anyway. So what's the point of like signal or like what's the point of putting it? Yeah, you know, you just set a reminder, you do it. So that was actually part of my understanding that like people already have like reminders.
Yeah.
That people
Fair
like
enough.
lots of those like other things that are non-primary work, like taxes, they need to be done anyway, so might as well just set a reminder and forget, and you don't need any other system to do it. So I suppose it was like for everything else, like all the ideas that come in, all the sort of other actions that like sort of not clear whether that you should do them or not. I suppose that's what I converged on. This was the problem that I was and then trying to solve. And it took me a while to understand that that's what I was trying to solve, because like as I got more feedback and I'm like, okay, it doesn't make sense to solve this side, okay, fine, all right, it just, my problem was kind of like becoming more narrow and more well-defined. And at the end of the day, I understood that that well-defined problem and then that I defined it then was not worth solving. At least it's still smart to-do list. It's still the future, I believe. Smart to-do lists that know you. But it's just like, there's so much, it's so hard, and it's like, probably somebody like Apple should do it, that have enough context on you, or and really can engineer this thing and give it to consumers maybe for free, just to value their product a bit better. So I think it's still the future smart to-do list. It's just, I don't think it's the right time at the right place, and I'm not maybe the right person at the right stage in life to do this, and I think there are better opportunities. So it's kind of like that shades of gray. It's not quite black and white in a sense. It's not that the idea is bad. It's not that the problem doesn't really exist. It's that just, maybe it is good, and maybe it is the future, but maybe it's not worth my time right now. And I suppose that's what I want this chat to be, is like just tell you that lots of stuff like that it's not black and white, and it was just there are still lots of uncertainties, and I might still make the wrong judgment of parking this idea. It might still be worth solving, or some kind of version of it. But yeah, I suppose we have to make bets, and that's the bet I make. What else? Some interesting things I can tell you. Maybe if you guys want to ask me, we have a few minutes.
What was your original data set that you said that actually was not working well for your problem? What was the first data set that you used?
Yeah, it was my own, like, I have a system, like that sort of paper, like on which I would write things. So that's the piece of paper that I... So that's the piece of paper that I like the unprocessed piece of paper that I took, and I was like, okay, let's process it. But what was the problem? Oh, okay, so
what was the data?
okay, sorry, I'm just to go back. So the data set ideally is like that brain dump sort of that you do, and you sort of organize it and see how well it matches with your sort of expectations. But what I've done is I took a similar problem because I had data on it, and I used that data instead. But it was not representative. So what that data was It's just I had like unprocessed pages, like a page of unprocessed brain dumps regarding startups, like ideas, actions I wanted to do, and blah blah blah. And I thought, okay, let's just take this list and let's organize it. But that problem was kind of like not representative of the actual sort of brain dump thing. They were similar, but they were not similar enough. And this caused like a lot of technical challenges because the technical problem was quite different in solving one versus solving another.
Why is it different? Because it was like on the narrow domain, it was all related to startups, like not including taxes and like, I don't know, grocery
Yeah.
and all those things. It was just encapsulated domain. But how was it different from what would be the whole idea about it?
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing, is that it seems so similar because you're organizing a page and you're organizing tasks. I think where it like messed me up is that I would show the customer the data set and they would look at it and they would not understand. They don't need to organize a page. They need to organize like, they need, what they really need is to help prioritize their life. And so maybe it doesn't quite click even after like 1 hour of chat. Yeah. So, but also another problem is that because of just the format of data and how the data was, and that there was way more ideas and sort of thoughts, random thoughts in this sort of data set on the page, as opposed to like the data set for my brain dumps. The data was quite different, and handling the data in one way, in like handling this data was way easier than handling this. So it's kind of like technical. They seem similar. That's the thing. They seem similar enough that like because it was available, I started using it. But the problem was that actually technically it was quite very different problems.
So when you were doing the classification, right? Because it was just a plain text as you converted it to plain text, right? So when you were doing like the structuring of the cell, so did you put like classifiers, right? To extract what is the to-do there, what is the intent there, what is the just wondering thoughts there? Like, did you do it in this way, or did you set was like send it to a lab for you just to structure it through how was it in your approach?
Yeah, so what was my approach? The approach was I used structured data output using just regular LLM. I used just structured JSON output, and I ran it in a single run for like full page of things.
Right.
And yeah, that's roughly speaking, yeah. So I gave the LLM a page and asked it to give me a structured output of each of the things, each of the fundamental blocks or chunks, and I tried to figure out what is this an idea, project, action, blah blah blah.
So it was supposed to return based on like what out of it is intent, what out of it is a task, what out
Exactly.
of it is okay.
And the commitments for each, like do you want to do it later, or do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it at all? Is this an idea? Like because maybe you deal with action and idea differently. Maybe idea sometimes you review it, or maybe you don't review it. So it's like the more I started thinking about it, the more complexity. But actually, when I use the structured output, that's one lesson, technical lesson, is that when you use structured output on big data, then it can, and you use pretty good model with reasonable reasoning, then it can take like an hour, and it can burn like $5 to $10 to solve it.
Now for a page or
For like
history log?
so you have a page of like say 100 dot points, you pass it to LLM and you ask it to organize each of the chunks
Yeah.
individually in a JSON format and just verify that everything is done correctly. And in my experience, that took like an hour on a good model, and the output wasn't even good.
So it took an hour because you were sending every line
No.
a separate call.
Together in one call.
And like as a deep research request? Which LLM do you use?
OpenAI,
OpenAI, just which model? 5.2?
GPT-5.
5.2? Because usually it's impossible for an OpenAI or Anthropic LLM to spend an hour on a request because it has time marks. So if you, even if you do deep research, it maybe like times out like 15 minutes or something. So if you're doing it as a request, and if you asked it to run it, did you do like yourself, or did you buy code or something?
Well, I think so because I think the reason it took so long is because one, there was structured output, and when those LLMs they try to produce structured output, they verify them, and they keep on like trying and retrying until it's verified. And also because I gave it good reasoning, like medium or something high reasoning, it would keep doing that until it like, and also give it a lot of very specific instructions. It would keep trying and building and trying again until it actually came up with the structure that I needed. And I figured out that this was a horrible approach. Not only was it inaccurate, it took so long. Yeah, it was just so there's like also lots of technical insight. So that's why that was my first prototype. So my later prototypes they simplified this a lot, and also understood that this wasn't. And this was one of the parts of the problem is that this wasn't necessary. Maybe I could just feed them one by one, but the problem I didn't is because the data wasn't representative, and it wasn't such a structure that you couldn't feed it one by one. So so that's the challenge of like having unrepresentative data set. Yeah, I mean there is more lessons, of course. Let's chat after, but yeah, that's it. That's the
I really
session.
appreciate it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it would be cool to catch up and see how you structure it like now, because
Yeah.
I've been playing around with a lot with like wrapping